And Chris, you can go ahead. I will be working in the background getting us live on Facebook.
Sounds great, guys. Hope everybody's having a great New Year. It's hard to believe it's 2026. What an incredible number, exciting times, and we always it seems like we all hit reset on January. I'm not sure if that's just by I don't know. New Year's resolutions have never been a big deal for me, to be perfectly honest. I'm not. I'd be more on setting goals and trying to make sure I have the consistency to have them happen. And we're just excited to have you this morning. This Saturday call has been going on for a long time, and it's the waiting room is continuing to fill, and people are continuing to join us. So we're glad you're here. Got people from I don't know 2 or 3 countries. I don't know how many states, obviously, but it's an exciting time. For me, this morning is a little different because the person I'm going to have on as a guest this morning, certainly bringing a lot of people on, is someone I've worked with for, my goodness, I'm trying to calculate it when I wrote up the little post. It's at least 25, around the 25-year mark. Our best way to say it is I hadn't lost any hair, and I can promise you at this point I have lost my share. And Todd didn't have a gray hair on his head, and I think he's got plenty of those right now. So at any rate, we've been working together a long time. We've watched our kids grow up. We've watched a lot of things happen over the years, but we've worked our business together. And so, but this morning, we're here to try to help people to realize what it takes to really, I call them setting goals or making decisions to take your business to another level. And we've got others on this morning that are going to speak as well. I heard we've got Brett Palmer here as well, even though he's not part of my team and we've got just so many. The good part about PartnerCo is the way we try to do things together, better together, our slogan. I think that's one of the better ones. I love our name. But with that, I want to turn it with Todd. And guys, what can I say? Todd's been a close friend for a long time. As I said, we watched our kids grow up. I was just thinking about that when trying to figure out what I was going to say about him on the flyer. Cade, who now coaches Division I college football, was a little bitty rascal in the gymnastics when I first saw him. And I mean, I'm trying to think about. Matter of fact, I remember when he was born. So it's like, how do you realize? Maybe not born, but he was a baby. He was still in diapers when we started. So, and but with all that, guys, 2026 can be different for you, but it's not just going to be because it's a different year. It's going to be because you choose the habits that make those changes. And I'm very fortunate to have had Todd as a mentor. Had a lot of good mentors, and Todd's been one of those. Even though he's much younger than me, he's kind of catching up, is what I call it. As you get older, those ages seem closer. He seemed like a kid when I met him. Now, obviously, as you get older, we learn that the ages not quite as important. So, Todd, with that, I just want to introduce you as a good friend, someone who is a chairperson. We could go through all your accolades. I mean, we could talk about our past successes. It really doesn't matter. Todd and I have flown on this private plane together. We've done a lot of things together. So he's had a lot of success in our industry. But like Brett Palmer was a high school football coach when I first met him. And so with that, Todd, let's just talk about what we're here for. We're talking about trying to change our lives in 2026 and develop the habits it takes to do that. Because I'm going to make one statement before we start. I saw somebody post something. I wish I could tell you. I heard Brett Palmer say this the other day on the call. Is that I steal from the best. Somebody, goals. We can set all the goals in the world, but if you don't create the habits, they're just dreams. And that's something I heard my brother say all the time. I mean, resolutions are irrelevant. That you've got to have a plan, and that's just probably. And I've been lucky in my life because somehow that was instilled on me early. I never really thought about it being the first of the year. I just tried to develop habits that made a difference. Obviously, reset. I think everybody needs a reset sometimes, and it happens for me about 5 times a year. But January always seems to be the big for everybody else. So with that, Todd, let's talk about what drives you. What makes you do what you do? What can someone do to create the habits that it takes to thrive in this industry?
So, Chris, I don't generally prepare for Zooms like this because I've been doing it so long. But this morning, I've been up for about 2 hours, jotting down notes, preparing because we're launching into a new year. And I really think that God made everything for new beginnings. Because if you think about it, you got day, then night, and then we get a new day tomorrow. So I don't know how many times I have a bad day and I go to bed and the next day is actually pretty good. You have a new beginning. We have the different seasons. We have summer, winter, fall. And it seems like, and it depends on where you live in the country. Obviously, some people probably don't have quite as thorough seasons, but most of us, when spring is becoming summer, we're ready for it. When summer's becoming fall, we love that fresh, cool air. When fall becomes winter, the first snow. By the time spring arrives again, we're sick of the snow and the cold and the warm weather. So it's a new beginning about every 4 months in the seasons. And a lot of times we never have a new beginning in life. We get off track, but we don't realize that maybe if we just stop for 2 seconds, we could have a new beginning. It requires change. It requires getting out of your comfort zone. It requires a lot of different things to create a new life. And Chris, I actually, in my notes, I was going to start with you before I actually go through why a person would really want to do this. Because a lot of times people see you now as the guy that does the training on Saturday. You draw a really, really, really big residual income. You don't have to work a lot. You're set for life. But what they don't know is in March of 2002, when I met you in the back of a room of a Holiday Inn in Jackson, Tennessee, is that you had bankrupted about $8 million. Your family had gone from owning boats and nice cars and a big company to you driving a 12-year-old Suburban and your wife cutting hair to barely pay your bills. And you were on your knees praying for something. And the last thing you thought it would be was network marketing. But you were at a point in life, you had to have a new beginning. Talk to us about where you were mentally and how you pulled yourself out with this industry.
Wow, Todd, I didn't expect that question this morning. Honestly, 20 something years ago, I look back on it and reflect on how depressed I was. And a lot of people don't like to talk about that word depressed, but that's where I was. I was in extreme depression, lost, as you said, a major company. And I was praying. I was praying for something to change. I don't know what else to say. I had stepped across the line and done very well financially. And all at once I was bankrupt. You said driving the old Suburban. Yeah, it was, I think it was more than 12 years old. It had 350,000 miles on it and hail damage and a broken windshield from driving a Porsche or a Ferrari to work. So it's a different life. And all at once here's the crazy part. Not only was I not praying for network marketing, this was what I didn't want to do. Yet sometimes God doesn't. I look back and think sometimes prayers are answered in ways you don't expect, but you try to question why. And I was one of those people, by the way. And so for me, I didn't want to do network marketing. I just wanted change. Now, revolve things 25 years later, I love what we do now. I love the fact that I see people get helped. I enjoyed it. And I'm not working like I used to. But the fact of the matter was, it gave me a chance. And that's really all I saw when I met Todd Rowland that night. I've often laughed, and I know he probably knows I'll probably say this, but I met a football coach from Arkansas and here I was, a business guy that had run a big major company with 400 plus employees. And I met a football coach who's going to tell me how to make some money. And I'll be perfectly honest, I was not impressed with Todd. I just thought he was a nice guy. He looked like a football coach. He did. A lot of times you can stay and see him now. He still dresses like the old football coach. He would much rather have on a hoodie and sweatpants than a suit and tie. I can promise you that. As a matter of fact, I'm not sure I've ever seen him in a suit and tie, maybe once in 25 years. But my point is, I was praying, but I wasn't. And when it came to the answer, I didn't even want it. I think I didn't even want it to be the answer. And why, I don't know, other than I didn't believe in the industry, and it was lack of knowledge. So revolve things 25 years later, I joined because I needed to make money. It looked like it would work. And I'm going to make one statement from a business perspective. When I joined that company, it cost $700, $698 to be specific. And when I joined, to me, I was broke, but $698 to start a business was nothing. And that's where most people miss the point. My company, that was a chance of losing my home. Everything was mortgaged to try to build a big company. So for $698 on something I could make some money at, that was really all that mattered. And I saw somebody doing it. It was Todd. And I thought, you know what? I'll figure out what else. I hate to say it, but I thought I could go make some money at this. But if I have to change, maybe I'll make some money until I figure out what I'm going to do. I called it real business. And guess what? That's 25 years ago. And I learned what the industry was about. And It was just lack of knowledge. And that's what I will tell you. And after a few years, I couldn't imagine doing anything else. I fell in love with helping people. I fell in love with the income, of course. Most people will know I'll admit that to begin very quickly. I fell in love with the extra income, but I also fell in love with the fact that I didn't have any risk involved in that. So that's pretty much my story, Todd. And here it is, hard to believe, 25 years later, and still working with that football coach. So,
Hey, Cindy, tell us about your start. You were a very successful real estate broker in Columbus, Ohio.
Yeah. So I basically similar story to Chris, but I was in the midst of losing everything because of the 2008 housing crisis. The franchises that I owned, the overall franchise lost 50% of their agents in 1 year. And so by year two of that, I was losing over, well, really 10,000 a month from different locations. So 30, 40,000 a month. And that went on month after month. And so like Chris, same thing. I didn't believe in the industry, but didn't, was told just do this to bridge it. And that's what I did. I really just got in to your and Chris's business and the other previous business without knowing you, and just went to work hair on fire to save myself, to save my house, my cars, my business. And like Chris, almost identical, I realized after a couple years, it's a whole different world than real estate. Real estate, a lot of people stab each other in the back, and network marketing, they help each other in most cases. And it's just two totally different worlds. And to be able to see it change lives of people who just are willing to go to work hard, which is really what I did. I grew up mucking barns, baling hay, milking cows, lower middle class at best, and worked my way up to what I had built with those real estate offices I delivered papers and worked at McDonald's. So one thing I did know was hard work. And if you do hard work, you can get somewhere. Like Chris, my grade point average was a little bit higher than Chris's, but not much. It was a little higher, Chris. But that's what I saw in it. But then when I really got in and I realized that there were more people making bigger money than in real estate. Something I had taught for 5 years at the Ohio State North campus. I taught real estate. I trained realtors all over the state of Ohio. And to look at that, the people stand on stage that were making hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars a year with no business background, no real big investment, blew my mind. It was a total mind shift. And I don't think you can walk away from that world once you realize it.
So do you think the percentage of people making really good money in this industry is greater than in the real estate industry?
100%. 100%. Now, as the prices have went up lately, people make more, but there's also 10 times the amount of realtors. So they're getting less sales. They're making more per sale. And I think as a realtor, you get a $20,000 check, a $10,000 check, you get a one-time check and you're like, woo, I just made it. But the bulk of the realtors are only selling a couple houses a year at best. And I had 8 of the top 10 realtors in my county worked for me. I paid out 800,000 in commissions to one person alone, almost 900,000. But that was somebody who'd been in real estate 30 years. It was rare back then. It was very rare. So I think, there's stories of people, obviously real estate investing will always be good, but I'm talking for my kids. I have 4 sons, 2 stepsons. For those guys, they can start from the ground up and build here without all of that and without the risk that I took, because it did, almost like Chris, cost me everything I had saved and built. So yeah.
So one last thing from you, Cindy. One of the things I've got listed here, a reason to do this, even if you don't want to, is for the time freedom. I mean, Chris is very seldom on the IPA call. Why are you never there, Chris?
Because I don't get up.
Cindy can tell you if you don't know. You're not awake yet.
I'm not awake yet. I might be awake, but I'm only
I always say, don't call him. He's still in bed. Don't call him.
Yeah. But Cindy, the real estate world, the car business, high pressure sales in the corporate world, people get used to a certain income. And once they get a nice house and a couple of nice cars, and a lifestyle, they end up chasing their butt the rest of their life trying to keep that living going because there's no residual associated with it. Talk to us a bit about that, about what the difference is in income here.
Yeah, completely. So I had really good years. I paid out $9 million a year in commissions, but every single one of those agents, with the exception of the ones who owned, apartment complexes or rental properties, none of them, I've not been paid one single time from anything I sold for 20 years. So here you build something and you build a team and you help others. The part I love about Partner Co is that if I can train and teach people to actually make money, not just put them in the team, but actually make money, then I do better. And so what's more rewarding than that is helping someone else change their life. And it's doing that. I just think it's more rewarding, but in comparison, it doesn't compare at all. And I would never go back to general real estate ever from this. Yeah.
And Reese, you were in the corporate world, a VP of operations of a very large company. And same for you. You did well. You live in a nice house at the beach. You have 5 kids. Wasn't that you're dying on the vine, but from a time freedom standpoint, you were dying on the vine. Talk to us a bit about what you discovered once you got involved.
Yeah. Yeah. At first, I didn't believe in it at all. Because I went to college and my grade point average was probably about like Chris's and Cindy's. I wasn't great, and I paid a lot of money to go to college. I took loans to go to college. So, and then went into the corporate world like you're supposed to do, like you're taught to do. And so when this came in to my life, I was like, when Ashley brought it to my wife, Ashley, she brought it into our lives. I was very skeptical, so to speak, and I just basically said, "Hey, we're not going to do this." Because I didn't have time to do it. I said I didn't have time, and I didn't. I mean, I was working 65, 70 hours a week as an executive, and I didn't get paid hourly. I got paid salary. So I wasn't getting paid for those extra hours I was putting in, but I had to put them in to make it work. So what happened with us is my wife loves traveling and she wanted to travel and she knew that this could be a way. And when this came into our lives and I started seeing what she was making, and then that's when I met Todd Rowland, and Todd showed me how you can make money here and how it can be a long-term thing. And hey, maybe I can actually retire. I never thought I was going to retire, as you said. I mean, I was working 65, 70 hours a week. I was corporate, but I had no retirement set up. I mean, I was putting away a bunch of money for retirement, but my retirement tracker, so to speak, on Edward Jones would say, hey, when you retire at 65, you're going to have enough money to live till you're 67, then you're going to be broke. And so I was like, I'm going to be working until I'm 90 years old if I make it that long health wise. But for us, when this came in, in 2.5 years, I went from working 65, 70 hours a week, moving into a consulting role. Hopefully, like I still enjoy doing that piece, and that's because I choose to do it, because this is paying us way more than both of our jobs combined. My wife, Ashley, she was working 4 jobs at the time, and Todd is like, I'll never forget when that was the first time Todd ever made Ashley mad, when he said, Ashley, why are you spending your time doing these things when you could be doing this in Partner Co, and it would pay you dividends time and time again? And that, at the time, Ashley was a little upset, but then it kind of dawned on her. And now Ashley works PRN, one job, and PRN is basically when they need her, they call her. And if she wants to work, she works. And then for me, I just kind of go and come as I please now at my other job. And this year I'll be doing a lot less of that because I'll be spending a lot more time in here, because as we talk, I mean, Todd talks to all of us, just like, those that want to do this. You get coached and you get told, hey, you've got to put in the time. And that's the thing here. You do have to put in the time, but it opens up so many ways. I get to go. I mean, we got to go to Costa Rica this year and spend 2 weeks. I work there doing Partner Co, but we got to spend life. My daughter's sitting right here beside me with the dog. So she's in her pajamas.
We'll be skiing together in 2 days, 3 days.
Yeah, we'll be skiing just a few days. And so, but I get to spend this time. Like, I'm not stuck in an office right now. I'm sitting beside my daughter right now working. That is the difference here, man. And then my goal is to be like Chris, to not get up till 11 o'clock of the day and then go sit on my boat for the rest of the day, and it still pay you. So.
Okay, Brent Palmer. A lot of people don't know how much smarter Brent is than I am. I was just a football coach. Brent was a principal of a high school. Like they wouldn't have let me in that office if my life freaking depended on it. They're like, we want to win football games, but you are not running our kids' academics. So, Brent, the one thing about you and I though is that we're the ones that people expect to do this because Chris owned a big company, Cindy was a big real estate agent, Reese was a big VP at a corporate company. I mean, quote, they're all the cool people in the world. You and me are teaching their kids and they're picking them up in the car line, feeling sorry for us because they know we're broke. But tell us a bit about your journey because you were headed to be superintendent of your county. Like it was already teed up and ready. You were about 12 months away from being appointed.
Yeah, coach. And just so everybody knows, coach never disappoints. Like I came on this morning to learn and he's going to call you out. So that's the coach in him. Uh yeah, I mean, when I was a high school principal, when I found the industry, it's like 99% of us, like it wasn't on the guidance counselor's checklist. Like I was not looking for network marketing. What I was looking for, I had a lawn care service. I was cutting lawns to make hustle money. Got two kids. We'd taken two kids in from an unfortunate home situation. And at the end of the day, I was broke, and nobody likes talking about being broke. Like Reese Antley just talked about it. Like he didn't run around and say, "I got a $225,000 job a year and I'm broke," you know? Um, so I didn't talk about it. So when I saw this industry and really I enrolled in December the 22nd. So if you think like December is a bad time to enroll somebody, that's when Todd enrolled. That's when I enrolled. I guess I had too much money on the credit card and decided what's another $500. But I was at a point where I was super tired of being broke. And initially, I'll say this, I actually was on a leaders call this morning early talking about this, but my entrance to the business was very simple. It was I wanted to get as far away from broke as I possibly could because I don't know if you can relate to this morning, but I was the guy that came up with all the excuses for my kids. Why we didn't need to go to Disney World. We'll just go down to the park, down, and put on our Mickey Mouse hats. We don't have to pay that money. Those people are wasting their time. When in reality, I just didn't have the money to get there. And, you know, I was constantly making excuses for our family, and when I started building in this industry, I was just like Reese. Or Ashley, I was able to cut back my lawn care service. So I did away with it first, started making some extra money. And then, $1,000 turned to 2,000, 2,000 turned to 3,000. And I just started backing away from all those things. It was really pulling me away from my family. And I started being able to do this industry and take my family with me. Like I remember taking my daughter or she was a baby, taking her to do a meeting. We didn't have social media. So I remember taking my son to Chicago to do meetings with me. And I thought, this is cool. Like I can do stuff with them and actually work. And we started growing. And then what happened, and I shared this morning, I'm going to be really quick. We ended up growing one of the fastest growing teams with just a bunch of average everyday people like coaches. Like when I was a high school principal, we had a car program. Like literally I'm waving in the school buses and at one point there was like 14 BMWs. Four of them was the school custodian. Okay. Four of the BMWs was the school custodians there at our school. So my point being is we grew a team. And then what happened, Todd, is about a year in, we had a lull. And I remember taking Peyton to a Nick Saban football camp, and I thought, the run's over. I've made some really good hustle money. I didn't have belief in the industry. I didn't know what the industry could do, but I had a good mentor, and he was hard on me. And he would always say, just compete with the calendar, Brent. Like how many, if get to the end of the month, how many presentations did you do? How many in-home events did you do? How many super Saturdays did you do? And I would have to present it to him and show him. And all I did from that moment when there was a lull is I just booked out my calendar. I competed with my calendar. I couldn't compete with anything else. And in that next year, our company went through a piece of momentum and I caught the market share. Not because I was great, but because I had boots on the ground working. And I had some buddies that didn't get the market share because they just wasn't willing to fill up their calendar with like drop talks and just simple things that we could do, but they just was not willing to do it. And that shift ended up leading me to earning tens of millions of dollars in the industry. That led me to then being able to go into other ventures. And so I share that to say, I came here broke. I wanted to get as far away from broke as I can. People ask me all the time, what's your dream, Brent? My dream, my Maserati is one day to be somebody's hero. My mentor had a very unfortunate thing happen to his 21-year-old daughter at the University of Miami. But because he had built this industry, because he had built residual income, he was able to provide medical care for her to this day. She's in her 30s. She's 35. And I always thought to myself, what if that time comes for Brent Palmer to step up and be somebody's hero, possibly my daughter, possibly my son? And what if I had to look at him, Chris, and go, Dad didn't prepare? I want to tell you, that's my driving force. So in 2026, going into this year, Coach, the reason I know that I personally will have a great year is because I will take out this calendar and I will fill it up with in-person events. Like everything else is in addition to. Like I'll do all the in addition to things, but what you can dang sure take to the bank is I'll get to the end of January. And if you look at Brent Palmer and go, Brent, show me your calendar, I'll pull it out and gladly show it to you. And you'll go, wow, I see why you're successful. And that's my challenge to everybody. Like, Coach, I don't know where you want me to go, but I'm here. I love this industry, but at the end of the day, I think you got to lead with the tongue in your shoes, not the tongue in your mouth. And I believe it's all about action. And action creates the results we always want. And I would ask all of you, like, who do you want to be a hero for? And that will drive you here. That's what drove me when I came here and I was broke and I was tired of being broke. And today I continue to have unfulfilled dreams that I will fulfill in Partner Co. And if you want to know my belief, my 23-year-old son is here working this business with me. And I would not have him here if I didn't believe this company was going to pay us for the rest of our life. And going back to what Reese said, football coaches are pretty like straightforward. So I just sent him a text and I said, hey, Mr. Entrepreneur, are you on the call this morning listening to Coach Rowland, Chris Doyle, that's made millions of dollars in the industry? What's your 2026 going to be? Because your dad's on the Zoom. Where are you? So, Coach, I'll turn it back to you.
Okay, so just know that Wednesday, Thursday of the Destin event, Brent and I will be doing a 2-day training. We do have a location now. Sarah will be locking that down over the weekend. We should have all the information on that Monday, but it's going to be over what I'm about to cover now. So everything begins in this industry with what we call the why. Like, why would you make time for anything else in life besides what you already are, which is probably already taken up every second that you have? And I'm just going to give you some. You just heard some. But one that I didn't realize, I didn't even know to talk about this the first year or two I was in the industry because nobody had ever shared it with me. I just thought everybody was supposed to work all of their life. I didn't know any different. That's what my parents had done. That's what my grandparents had done. So that's what I was supposed to do. But here's one thing that would, if you can ever grasp it, would make you run through burning bushes to make this business work. And it's called time freedom. It's called waking up every morning and doing what you want to instead of what you have to, whatever that is for you. For me, I love working the business. Like if I'm not having to deal with problems, I'm just helping people change their life. There's nowhere else on planet Earth I'd rather be. I'd rather be doing this than play. I hate golf. I don't like stuff that most people like. I run sprints for fun. My mind is a little different, but nonetheless, I love working this business. I don't love dealing with issues, but I love working the business part. So for you, what do you love to do that you currently don't get to do enough of? Is it just being with your family, being with your kids, going on vacations, whatever that is? But time freedom. Reese, would you? Yeah, why don't we just keep everybody up, Sarah? That way I can just ask them spotty questions. But Reese, you just recently went to Costa Rica for 2 weeks. But in this business, it didn't affect you at all. You could just flip on your iPad and be ready to do a Zoom anytime. Talk to us just for 2 seconds about how you were able to vacation with your family in a foreign country for 2 weeks without having to take vacation and still make money and be effective in your business.
Yeah, so we actually just got back from Cabo. We went, we've spent time in Park City and Colorado all this year. I think Ashley posted, I think we made like 8 vacations this year. And when I say vacations, they're not truly they're vacations. We get to do all the fun stuff, but I'm also actually working and I'm getting write-offs on all of those. So everything's a write-off now. But with that, I'm able just from an iPad, from my phone, just sitting out here on the porch, I'm able to just tune in, whether it's the IPA call or somebody calls and says, "Hey, I need a Zoom. Can I jump on the Zoom? Do a presentation." I know I did just as many presentations in Costa Rica as I do sitting here at the house or sitting in an office. However, if I would have never been able to take that time off work, normally I'd been able to take a week or two, and then I'm still going to be communicating with, work and not enjoying that. No write-offs, none of that. But this, I'm still able to create an income. I'm having a better. And Todd, a year and a half ago, one of our better checks that year came in a week that our house burnt down and I was unplugged for 7 to 10 days. And our business still was going and we still received that check. And it was just as big, if not bigger than the previous weeks. It doesn't stop. That's what's so great about this. You can unplug for a few days, just like Todd did on us in December. But when you come back, you just hit it hard again and keep rolling and be available whenever and just make it part of your life. That's what we do. That's what Ashley and I do. We make it part of our lives. So whatever we're doing, whether it's sitting on the porch like this, is part of our lives and we're able to do that.
And Cindy, you and I did about 10 minutes worth of work yesterday with a guy in Pennsylvania. And where were you doing that work from?
I was doing it from sunny Punta Cana and just doing what, it really is a time freedom thing. When I owned my franchises, and I've owned several businesses, they owned me. They owned me. I don't care what anybody says. If you're a business owner, you know what I'm talking about. You could not leave. And if you did, all chaos broke out and nobody cared but you. It affected your bottom dollar. And so I was the first one in, last one out of my offices. Now I can be at the beach or but I do work. I'm on Zooms. I was on IPA yesterday. I did a couple of Zooms yesterday, like Reese. And this morning I sold 2 boxes of drops and have an appointment for the lady, husband and wife, have an appointment for the lady to go over other stuff. But it was at breakfast. So, just in conversation.
Okay,
Yeah.
so if you're sitting out there, everybody's at a different stage of business. Some of you are brand new. Some of you, like Reese and I had a conversation 2 days ago because Reese is now making really good money, made more than $10,000 for the week of Thanksgiving, for the week, not the month, $10,000 week. But this is what I told Reese, and I want everybody to apply this. And I'm going to give you a sketch of where the time goes, but we'll actually training on it in Destin. Like we're going to take our time and really drill this in. But I said, Reese, if you want to stabilize your income and be paid for the rest of your life, you got to go all in on 2026 because you're not there yet. Like you've made good money, you've got a business, you'll always be paid, but you do not have financial freedom yet. You don't have enough leaders and enough legs yet. She's got one great leg, one decent leg, and his third leg is still trying to come to life. So, like there is a period of time, and I'm probably the worst person to say this because it's just the way it is, but you can't accomplish anything great without a bit of imbalance in your life for a moment. Like when I was coaching high school football, we won the state championship in 1999. I never came home. Like every other team was practicing too. Every other coach was coaching too. Every other player was lifting weights too. we didn't have the best kids. So we had to understand schematically how possibly we could beat this team that probably should beat us. And it takes a lot of film time. Then you got to teach the kids. Then you got to rehearse it. And it just, that takes away. At that time frame, I had 3 babies. And there was a bit of imbalance in my life to win that state championship. It's not applicable to network marketing. It's applicable to anything in life that you want to do something great in. So Chris Dole, very briefly, when you were creating your company that eventually had 430 employees, was there a bit of imbalance in your life for a moment trying to get that company off the ground?
Well, obviously there was, you know that. I worked 70 and 80 hours a week. I even bragged about the fact that my record was 55 hours without going to bed. And that's a fact. I worked over 50 hours a couple of times in my plant. Don't think it's not possible. You can do a lot of things. Your body will eventually collapse. But yeah, there was a lot of imbalance. I think that's one of the things that really helped me in this industry was that I didn't expect to make so much money. I mean, I made millions of dollars in the blue jean business, but most people don't realize the first 5 years was trying to get the company established, trying to get things going. It was not overnight. But the difference was, you mentioned the why, I couldn't quit. I was not happy with the way business was going, but I had mortgaged my house for that business. And I'm still convinced that's why people leave network marketing, because the penalty is you just lose a dream that you had or a goal that you set. Whereas in the business world, if you borrowed so much money, you can't just walk away. And I'm going to compare something, Todd. I had a plant before that. I was in the dry cleaners business. I don't know if anybody even knows that. I'm not sure Brett Palmer even knows I owned the dry cleaners in the Corn Laundry. That business was losing money. I couldn't quit. My house was mortgaged. It took 3 years. I never made any money. So most people expect to join our industry and get rich without putting that time in. And that's just the biggest difference. And in my conventional business, I didn't have a choice but to do that work, because if I don't, I always laugh and say they're going to repossess the house, the cars, and the kids. We didn't really mortgage the kids, Kristen, don't get worried, but we really almost did. I mean, we were that desperate. It was going to change their lives, but you can't just walk away. And in network marketing, it's like, oh, if I want to work today, I'll make my post, or if I want to work today, I will make my call. But if you're in a business that they're going to take your house, you make the calls, you show up for work, and you're the one that you're responsible for. I know. So that's really the big difference here. And I think that is why I succeeded, is because I didn't have somewhere else to go make that kind of money again. And it wasn't enough options. It wasn't my choice. Make that again. It wasn't what I picked. Now, look,
I'm going to suggest to everyone that thinks that's not good that the most imbalance a person has in life is when they're train wrecked financially and physically. That's when the real imbalance occurs. Because when you're chasing your tail at the end of every week or every month to pay your bills, there's no peace ever. There's no time freedom ever. There's no going to sleep and closing your eyes and resting, because you're always stressed financially. And in 2026, I'm telling you, most families are living that way. Professionals are living that way. You know, all of us men, we don't really understand what it costs at the grocery store until we actually go. So I went to the grocery store. I had to go get some meat to cook for Christmas. Went over to Fresh Market in Panama City, Florida. I bought enough for, I thought, 2 days worth of feed my family, and it was $920. I was like, I bought some steaks. I bought good food, but the basket wasn't even full. I was like, this is nuts what it costs to live. I was looking, all 4 of my kids came home for Christmas, and I was thinking about it. They all 4 drove cars home that I had paid for. I have insurance on them. I have 1 kid still in college. The other 3 went through college. I have 1 that's chasing his dream in college football that's not making a full-time living yet, that still needs income. I have a daughter that lives with me, about to have a baby. And I was thinking, staring at them over Christmas, if I was still a high school football coach, every one of their lives would be so drastically different. None of them would have the opportunities that they had, because money creates opportunity. Money helps other people. My mentor, Chris Dole's mentor, Cindy's mentor, Paul Oberson, used to always say, his dad was a pastor. It was a small church in Kentucky, and this is one thing he would say it all the time. He would say that when the church needed a new parking lot or something new, they would pray for money. And Paul would say, We were praying for money, but we all knew we were praying for the owner of the John Deere place in town that attended our church to write the check, because nobody else had the money to write the check for the new parking lot but that one guy. So money is good. You must change the reticular activating system of your brain if you've been trained to think otherwise. I'm not saying the love of money is good. I'm saying it is a tool that we must have on this earth to survive. And if you don't believe me, go without it. And you're going to have an army of people reminding you they need your money if you want to continue to live in that house, drive that car, keep that insurance, get treatment when you go to the hospital. Like, it is hard. The work, like I always tell people all the time, life is hard. Accept it. Now, let's do something about it. So I'm going to sketch this out in 5 minutes. But again, for 2 days in Destin, Brent and I are going to train each one of these subjects like beyond the pale. So next, I understand why I'm going to do this. Next, you've got to start casting a vision. If you don't have any vision here, get around people who do. Get to Destin, get to an event, just do a drop talk, get on the IPA Zoom. But you've got, the Bible tells us, without vision, the people perish. If you cannot see into the future somewhat, people think I exaggerate. I don't. I see it before it happens. I speak it into existence. The Bible tells us God created us in his image. How did God create the world? He spoke it into existence. If you don't believe you can speak something into existence, you don't have faith. I know I can. If I say it and then I'm willing to follow it up with actions every day, it's going to happen. I've watched it happen in my life the entire time I've been living. But you got to have the faith, and then you got to have the tenacious discipline to follow your faith. Next, you got to get good at this knowledge. Like, I'm going to give you the sketch of it, but you got to come learn, and you got to plug in to people that know what they're doing. But if you want to get to the big money, you must get good at this. You can't be bad at it. You got to become a good communicator. You got to learn to say a lot with fewer words. You got to be able to do a 5-minute presentation, a 15-minute presentation. You got to be able to relate to people. You got to get your feelings off your shoulder and quit letting everybody that enters your business hurt your feelings, and got to quit judging others and understand that everybody that enters your business is going to have a different personality and different beliefs and different denomination of church. Like, we're not all the same. And in the people business, we all get put in the same room. And sometimes you have to be okay with other people's opinions and beliefs and all those kinds of things. So you got to get good. How do you get good? Well, you're about to have a call in 10 minutes with Kristen White and Dr. Strand here in the States, and up in Canada, you're about to have a call with Dr. Plant and several others about the body balance. And like, get educated on the body balance. Get your before picture made today and get enrolled in it and get educated. You can share it with the next person. Okay. The next thing is, I'm going to talk about the passive and the direct way in this last 5 minutes. The passive way of building this business is posting 2 times a day. So question number 1, starting Monday morning, is, am I making my first 9 a.m. post straight from boards? I don't care if you're the most creative person on this call. You still got to do the 2 posts from boards. And there's a ton of boards now, so you never run out of pictures. Just get somebody else's boards. And then at the end of Monday night, then I make my second post at 9 and 3. And then I got to do that every day, all month. And then I got to string some months together. Am I checking Messenger? Am I replying with the scripts from boards? Like, that's how it works. Like, the people who do generally have more success than the people who don't. It amazes me. I was on the phone yesterday with Danielle, who's going to be helping me in Destin. Danielle is in Colorado. She's unbelievable on social media, but she developed this whole checklist for people that say they're not selling drops. I generally don't need Danielle's checklist because she goes through the lives and all these different things that can up algorithms, adding 10 friends a day, all those kinds of things. When somebody comes to me and tells me they're not selling, I can go to their Facebook page and in 3 minutes say, well, you may not be selling, but you're also not posting twice a day. I just looked at your Facebook. So don't call me complaining until you're following the system that we know that works. So like, it doesn't just happen like this. Like, I wish, maybe I don't even wish, because almost everybody that wins the lottery loses all their money. Money needs to be earned. You need to grow your mind over time, and that way you'll hang on to it. But but you got to get good at that. So posting twice a day. And then there's all kind of things that we're going to train on that you can do to upsells. Danielle's developing a whole booklet on it where actually I told her, because all the work she's put in, I told her she needs to sell it. So she's going to try to get that done and be able to sell it there too, like $10, nothing much, but I just didn't want her to give all of her stuff to everybody with no compensation for it. But she's so good. And then Amy in St. Louis, Amy sold 1,000 boxes in 90 days and made 50,000 her first 90 days in the company. 100% social media. And they're both going to be talking about that. Okay. So then now let's talk about when we sign up or we sell a box. We then have to get in the conversion system. And one of the things she's got a checklist on now is, are you communicating with your customers daily or every other day? It's the number one downfall I see of people that sell a lot of boxes. A lot of times people that sell a lot don't convert a lot. And the reason they're not converting a lot is because they sell and they're always selling. They're not nurturing. You got to nurture those customers. You got to get them drinking water. Got to get them taking the drop 3 times a day. You got to get them eating from the approved food list. Got to pick them up when they fall off the wagon for a day. Losing weight is hard. Otherwise, 80% of our country wouldn't be obese and walking around with metabolic syndrome. It's not easy. So you got to be with them there. And when you start getting some positive results, then you got to get in the conversion phase, which now moves us to the last piece of this morning. And that is, and there will be a whole day on this, because Brent just said, what is he competing with? He's competing with his calendar. He's not competing with Todd. He's not competing with Reese. Like, does he want to beat me? Of course he does. He's a football coach. Nobody wants to lose in that coaching world. But that's not what he wakes up and does every day. You don't just want to beat somebody. You got to do the deal. So same with me. Do I want to be better than Brent? Maybe. I don't even know if I do or not. I want us all to win so big that we're all traveling the world together, hanging out in Tahiti, Bali, Maui, Hawaii, Cancun, Punta Cana, Costa Rica, skiing in the mountains next week where everybody's going to be there. Like once you get addicted to this life, you never want it to go away. And I never want anybody in this life to go away. Like, I just want to keep adding more and more people to all of this fun. So here's what we do in the calendar. It's all about exposure to the next person. Okay. So there are a couple of different things I'm going to walk you through here. I've only got 2 minutes to do it. So you've got the 3-way call. You need to be doing those nonstop. Initially, you're using someone in your upline or sideline that is proficient. They're helping you do the 3-way call and convert customers, or just talk about the business if it was a direct approach. 2-on-1s. The reason I call it a 2-on-1 because that can be done via Zoom or in person. I will drive 3 hours over a Zoom to sit down with somebody in person, shake their hand, look them in the eye, and build a relationship. That's me. If you ask James Zing, who's equally as successful, he's going to do 99.999% of his on social media, but he's also 20 years younger than me and dealing in a little bit different generation. So, like, can both work? Yes. All I can do is share what I do. I like looking people in the eye, finding out their desires in life, understanding why they need to do this. So I can remind them on the days they want to quit, because they will. Everybody does. It's part of the animal. And then starting the journey together. So 2-on-1s. You got to do 5 of those a week, either 3-way or 2-on-1 in person or Zoom, 5 a week, to even consider yourself part-time here. If that's not happening, you're not part-time. You are absolutely have a hobby. Can you make money at hobbies? Sure you can, but don't expect much unless you get really lucky. And then you're going to navigate over time from 5 a week to 5 a day. If you want to get to the big money, everybody doesn't. But if you're sitting here today, ready to kick off 2026, and you want to do what Reese did, and that's in your first 2 years, get to a $10,000 a week in income, then you got to get to 5 a day. How do you get to 5 a day? Well, you'll never know enough people to do that. You got to have a team that needs you. But here's the most important part. You got to get good at this, because if you're not good at this, your team's not going to call on you for help. Like this is real. Like, if you're not a good presenter, if you go down rabbit holes, if you don't have a good presence on Zoom, like, they're not calling and saying, hey, will you help me do a Zoom? Because they're knowing you're probably not going to get them. They're going to call somebody else. And same on a 3-way. So you're going to, so I'll use Reese as an example. He's a great example of this. In the beginning, I was his 3-way and his 2-on-1 guy, 24/7. And a lot of times, even when I wasn't doing it for Reese, he was hopping on watching me do it for other people. In today's world, he's better at it than I am. Like I go listen to him so I can improve my skill set hearing what he says to people. So he transitioned from being helped to helping. And then in conclusion, you then got to do, like some people hate to do home parties. Fine, don't do them. But the people who do make more money. There's no chance that's not going to happen. So you got to get launch parties and drop talks going on in your organization. And I believe some type of weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly infrastructure of a meeting. I don't care if it's just once a month, but at least a time where people in the general area can get it. I don't care if it's 5 people, 10 people, 12 people, 100 people, but you got to get people in a room to hear live testimonials, see a live presentation. And if you do that, you'll start building their belief like your belief, and it'll begin to take off. And the last piece is you get them to the big events, the Destin, the Connect events, the Super Saturdays, and then eventually the big PXP, I think, which this year will be in Orlando. So that's it in a nutshell. What I just trained on to include you drawing out your vision board will all occur on Wednesday and Thursday in Destin. And Brent and I are going to be training on the exact same subjects. Like there is no other subject on Wednesday and Thursday. And others will be participating. Danielle's going to be a part of that. So she can train the whole, like nobody's going to tell me they can't sell drops on social media anymore if you sit through Danielle's training, but she's going to tell you how she sold 1,000 boxes. And Amy's going to tell you how she sold 1,000 boxes. And it's not because they posted twice a day. It's because they posted twice a day. They added 10 friends a day. They did reels. They did lives. They did everything else that they got the boosting groups. They use the boosting groups. When people don't participate in the boosting groups, they create new boosting groups instead of complaining about it. Like you just go win. And got a little excited, Chris, but got it all out just in time, so I'll turn it back to you.
Well, we always know you get excited when you get to the end of talking about the money part. And obviously the big events, I think there's somebody needs to realize they're so incredibly important. Guys, there's going to be another Zoom here in just a minute, but I want to make one statement. Reese is doing amazing. Guys, we've made an income claim of what he's making. Everybody's income will be based on your efforts and your time. That's the same, no different in this business. And Cindy would say that about the real estate business. I was also a realtor years ago. There was some 3% of the realtors made about 80% of the money. So just know that the effort is, everybody's different. But now everybody's going to play quarterback somewhere anywhere. Guys, Dr. Strand and my daughter, I always like to throw in that I'm Kristen. Most people, I've become famous here because I'm Kristen White's dad, not because I made a lot of money in the industry, which has been a little difficult for me, but I've learned to adjust, because it's my daughter. Guys, it's going to be an amazing call talking about how the drops work. Know it's up right now. I think somebody's already posted it in the chat where the Zoom is, the Zoom number. If not, I'm sure we can get that done again. And it starts literally in 1 minute. This will be posted. Guys, don't miss 2026. And we could talk about this being your year. It'll only be your year if you decide to apply the things it takes to make it your year. I mean, I always refer it to the gym. I always think I'm going to do better in my exercise, but I don't. But I made a decision this year that I'm just going to be more consistent, eating more healthy, and I'm going to be consistent with walking and doing some basic fundamentals more. Business is really no difference. Make a consistency to do the same things, and good things will happen. And, life happens. Make yours different in it this year. Guys, the other call's on. Join that call and listen to Dr.
Yeah, hey, Chris, make sure there is a Canada call and a U.S. call.
Yes,
so if you're in Canada, make sure you go to Canada because things are slightly different in each country and they don't want confusion. So Canada and U.S., it should be floating around out there everywhere. It's for sure on all the websites, on all the Facebook pages, all those kinds of things are out there.
Absolutely. Guys, I think they're already leaving because I can watch the numbers. Everybody's going to hear Dr. Strand. I might be popular, but I don't compete with Dr. Strand or Dr. Plant. So guys, thank y'all for being on. Coach Palmer, I didn't expect you. I know you were traveling. Reese, thanks you for joining us. Cindy, what's the difference? Commitments. These guys are committed. They showed up anyway. I told Cindy, don't even worry about it. She's on the beach, but she came anyway. Plugging in, guys. Have a great night. See y'all next Saturday. I'll have a big surprise for you. Have a good one.